When young people are too old for camp and too young for a job, summer opportunities can be tricky, but they can also be very helpful. That's the reason for a new initiative by ABCD. It's called YEA, for Youth Engaged in Action. To tell us about the program is our guest from ABCD, the director of the Dorchester Neighborhood Service Center, Eric Mitchell. Thank you very much for being with us, Eric.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is for 13-year-olders. So what is it about 13-year-olders?
Well, what we know about 13-year-olds, other than it being a very pivotal year developmentally, is that when you're looking for a program in the summer, you are 13, and so you're really too old for the traditional day camp, child care, summer camp, but you're too young to work. And so we know that our 13-year-olds are active, they have energy, if the laws allow them, they probably could earn a wage, but they're not allowed to, and that makes sense. But what are we going to do with them? And so what we think makes sense would be to really engage them in something that's constructive, that has learning, but stuff that's really practical and useful for them now and into the future.
We'll talk about the activities that are going to be going on.
So the things that we are working on are how to manage money and civic engagement. And what we will do in the 2-week period is really work with young people on, when you have money, how should you allocate that money? And we want to get beyond the impulsive, oh, I have money, I spend money, I have money, I spend money. You want to get into, okay, I have money, I save some money, and then I spend on some of the things that I need and some of the things that I want. And so there's a place for all of that, but we want to make sure that the saving piece is pivotal to their learning. And then there's the civic engagement. It really ties into the mission of ABCD, helping people to help themselves. And so how do you work with young people to begin the process of understanding how do they help themselves? You know, how do they get empowered or learn the structures that they have to speak to in order to have issues addressed that are relevant to them in their community? So we hope that by the end, they have learned that they have a new relationship with money and that they begin to develop a new relationship with their surrounding environment.
Well, what about the civic engagement opportunities? We've got a big election year at this time, so maybe they might be out there registering voters?
Well, what we're hoping to have them do is to really identify issues and then begin to get comfortable with having those issues be addressed. And so voter engagement is one way of going about it. We also think that it's pivotal to learn not just to engage voters, but to engage candidates. And so we really want them to think about the issues. What would you do if you had a problem on your street, and how do you get empowered to do that? Sometimes it's hard to feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling, you know, whether it be City Hall or the state office or to a legislator or to a neighborhood coordinator. Someone has the ability or the power to help you and to resolve that issue, and we want young people to get comfortable with the mechanisms that govern us.
And that means they're going to be going out to the neighborhoods, maybe finding out from people what concerns they have and what to do next?
Well, what we'd like to know is what concerns they have as 13-year-olds.
The young people themselves.
They themselves have a number of things that concern them. And, you know, we know when we were young, there's always something that concerns you or is of interest to you, your family, your community, but we didn't always think that we could do something about it. Okay. And so we want them to feel there is something that you can do about it.
Get into the money part, and I mean not how much you're paying necessarily, but the idea of handling money and making decisions.
Well, they go hand in hand. Oftentimes we have curriculum, but learning what to do with the money and actually putting it into practice, those things really have to come together. So we want to not only work with them at a young age, here is what you should do with money if you want to really be successful and to build on what has been given to you. You could spend it all, and at the end of 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks have nothing. Or you could begin to save some of it, and then at the end you might have some things, and then you might have some money to get some things for later on. And so it's just a critical, it's a learned behavior, saving and planning for the future, and we want to start that behavior early on.
Well, thinking about what this means for the future, obviously it's a great first step toward a regular summer job the year later. But these are maybe 8th graders in September who are going to be 9th graders a year later. And, you know, the 8th to 9th grade is also a difficult leap for many students. And I guess maybe a program like this might make that a better rounded student who can handle the gradation.
Well, I certainly think as we are working with young people around civic engagement, those are leadership skills that they'll be learning that should translate into supporting them as they go into possibly newer schools, but certainly as they go up into the 9th grade year, which can be a difficult freshman year in high school. any of the structured activities that young people engage in the summer is helpful. And the 13-year-old group tends to be a group that doesn't have as much opportunity as others. And we hope that this program, we know that this program will close that gap.
And I guess they're going to be with a different mix of kids, too.
They will certainly be with a different mix of kids. I mean, it's not often that you bring 13-year-olds specifically together from all over the city. We have multiple locations that will be doing it, and not only will they work in their neighborhood, so they'll be at Dorchester where I am, but at the end of the sessions, we'll bring them all together to really bring all of it together and talk about the issues that they've all begun addressing.
Well, I know we're just getting to the end of the school year, so if people want some information about this, any young people who want to sign up or parents who want to enroll their kids, what's the best thing for them to do?
Well, they can find the information on the ABCD website, but I can certainly give the phone number for those that can write it down. It's 617-348-6239. And so we encourage families to contact us. We still have some availability, and we want to make sure that everyone who is interested really has that opportunity.
And are there any income guidelines about eligibility for a program like this?
We typically always have some income eligibility guidelines, but we don't want families to pause at that. We want them to apply, and we will work the rest out and identify those that are eligible, and if they're not eligible, we'll work with them on something else.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
From ABCD, Eric Mitchell. Still to come, a One Fund Boston event in West Roxbury, but first, this message.